Before I start, there's two things. As I'm older, my memory gets worse and worse and worse. And so, in developing this sermon, most of the time I'll probably read most of it because I can't remember what I had said. And besides, this is somebody else's speech I picked up off the internet. So, bear with me, please. I noticed as I was looking at the calendar, I noticed that today is 12/12/21. If you read that backwards, I can't read it. It's 12/21/21. Hope this means that today is mine and your lucky day. We'll see when it's all over after this. First thing when I volunteered to talk on the subject was to go to the internet and find out about the Star of Bethlehem. Not being much of a Bible expert, the only reference to the Bethlehem star that I could find was in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 12, just as Jim read. Then I had to know what the experts thought the star was. I read about conjunctions of planets, supernovas, and due to the Earth's rotation, the star would have not been stationary as mentioned in the Bible. Not much good for following. I learned that the Magi were from Baghdad, and which would have been a travel over 500 miles to get to Bethlehem. Averaging about 10 miles a day, this would have been 50 days travel, and it wouldn't have been just the three of them. They would have had a caravan of people to help support them on their way. After some time of looking at all this stuff, I realized I was more concerned with the wrappings and had lost track of the gift. The gifts are the guiding lights, and the guiding lights that we have depended upon and been influenced by in our life. I've always loved the story of the Star of Bethlehem. The images of the guiding star and the Magi are beautiful, and I could feel their love. It was only later in my life that I learned of studies that questioned the events in the story. For this story, it's more important for me to feel the love and ignore the facts. The movie, Polar Express, gives me the same wonderful feeling. We just watched it the other night. And analyzing is not worth the trouble because of the goodness that you see in the film. The Magi were astrologers who claimed to discern information about human affairs and terrestrial events by studying the movements and relative positions of celestial bodies. I don't claim that I can discern the same type of information from the celestial objects, but I am influenced by them and love them. Growing up, I was drawn to the night sky. I remember Ursa Minor and Major, the Big and the Little Dippers. Cassiopeia, is that Cassiopeia? One of the two, Cassiopeia or Cassiopeia. Orion and the North Star. At some point, I learned about an extra star in the handle of the Big Dipper. You guys heard about the extra star that's in the handle of the Big Dipper? It's by the second star down in the handle. It has to be a clear night with good visibility to see the star. Every time I'm lucky enough to see the obscure star, I get the same feeling of wonder and happiness that I got when I was younger. Think of how the stars were used by early explorers to find their way by these guiding lights. I always think about the early Pacific Islanders and how they used the stars to navigate and colonize the many islands in the Pacific Ocean. One of the gifts of creation is the North Star in the northern hemisphere. It is stationary in the right night sky and great for navigation. But you can't see it in the south of the equator. Enter the stars of the Southern Cross that were used for navigation in the southern hemisphere. When we go to Hawaii, we stay in cottages that are on a street called Makali'i. This is the Hawaiian word for a constellation we know as the Pleiades. When the rising of the Makali'i in the east falls in sync with the setting of the sun in the west, this positioning of celestial bodies marks the beginning of Makahiki, the Makahiki season, which is the Hawaiian New Year. So the next time you're in Hawaii at New Year, you can say Ha'ole Makahikiho, which is Happy New Year in Hawaii. I can think of 3 times that the starry sky left a great impression on me. One year, Sammy and I spent the night at the north rim of the Grand Canyon. The back of our lodging sat right on the rim of the canyon, and at night, everybody sat in chairs to look in the stars. You have to imagine this. It takes your breath away to sit on one of the rims of the canyon and look out over that expanse at night with the stars blazing. One night, we sat looking at the stars. There wasn't a cloud in the sky, and I was dazzled by the view of the heavens. Behind me, I heard someone say that the sky was beautiful, but it was too bad that there was a fine layer of clouds that kind of blocked their view. What he was seeing was the Milky Way galaxy. He was from a larger city, and the city lights prevented him from seeing the galaxy. Years ago, in the summer, College Heights used to go to, with some other churches, to Cazadero, up off the Russian River, to spend a weekend in their cottages. One of the gifts that I really enjoyed was lying in the meadow at night, looking at the stars. I remember seeing shooting stars and satellites. My mind would just wander in the stars, and nothing else mattered. One year, Sammy, Marilyn, Jim, and I went camping in Chaco Canyon in northwest New Mexico. Between about 900 AD and 1100 AD, Chaco Canyon was a major center of culture for the ancestral Pueblans. It is spectacular for its location and ancient structures. One night, we went for a star talk at the ranger station. Because of Chaco Canyon's location, there's almost no influence from man-made light on the night skies. I've never seen so many stars in my life. My whole mind was focused on just the star display, and I could almost feel the spirits of the people who had lived there. This must have been the type of the sky that the Magi found their Star of Bethlehem and their guiding lights to the baby Jesus. When I see Pigeon Point Lighthouse as I drive down the coast, I think of all the ships that were guided safely through the section of the coast by this guiding light. Before the lighthouse was installed, there were numerous shipwrecks on the coast with a large loss of life. The point, and later the lighthouse, was named after the sailing ship Carrier Pigeon that wrecked off that point. Everybody still awake? Still with me? Okay. A guiding light can also be someone who has had an important influence on you in your life. The term guiding light is based upon the idea of a source of light that is used to guide someone's way in the dark. What have been and still are your guiding lights? Please think of some and share them with us at the end of the talk. Well, you may be surprised to know that Jesus has been one of my guiding lights. Although it's not important to me whether he was God or not, his humanity is important to me. His message of love for each other and the willingness to die for this message is my guiding light. I'm reading the book After Jesus, Before Christianity. It's a study that looks at the first 200 the first 2 centuries of the Jesus movement after the death and before it became centralized in Rome, Christianity. There was nothing called Christianity until the 3rd century after Jesus' death. I haven't finished the book yet, but there seems to be more flexibility and diversity within the Jesus movement before it became centralized in Rome. I'm getting more of a feeling for Jesus the man and not much for Jesus the God. I'm also wondering if some of my guiding lights are the same lights used by other people. Do they have the same influence on others that they have on me? Every day we hear about guiding lights that have made a positive influence on other people. But we also hear about the guiding lights. But we also hear about the dark guiding lights. I think about Jim Jones and the tragedy in Jonestown. Sometimes we get so overwhelmed by these dark lights that we don't know the bad influence that they have on us. Jim Jones is an extreme example of a bad guiding light, but I'm sure that we can think of other examples in our lives that we recognize the bad influence and we were fortunate enough to be able to turn away. Here's a poem by Olivia Newton-John called Little Star of Bethlehem. Little Star of Bethlehem, perfect as a pearl, watch for your eyes to turn and our faith to unfurl. How I pray that you will cast your light upon the world. Shine on, flame of peace, flame of hope. Oh, help us believe. Those who wait with hungry hearts, clinging to despair. Those whose souls are bound in chains, the lonely everywhere. Show them that we hear their cry. Show them that we have. Show them that we care. Shine on, flame of peace, flame of hope. Oh, help us believe from the west to the east. Shine on us. We shall be released. And finally, this is a poem about the other type of guiding light, the persons in our life. See if you can guess who this is. It's called My Guiding Light by Ron Grott. You are the one that guides me when I'm lost in the darkness of night. When I'm drift on a sea of doubt, you are my guiding light. You are the one who hears my voice. Now my words are held within. You are the one that claims me. Now my world is crashing in. You are the one I talk to when no one else can understand. You are the one that walks with me. You hold my trembling hand. You are the one who sees me for what I hope to be. You are the one that lifts me up to be more than I can be. Who is it? Anybody know? Let's take a moment to think of the guiding lights in your life. And if you feel comfortable, please share them with me or with us.